Hi everyone, Linda Israel here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a journal page using some old book pages, gel prints, scrapbook paper, and some stamping. So let's get started. So right off the bat, what I've done is I've picked up a page out of a Bible. This was one of those family Bibles, and it just happens to be roughly 8.5 by 11 inches. Reason being is because that's the size journal that I'm going to work in, and I want this to be the same size. So I know that this is approximately 8.5 by 11, and then I've cut a couple of 1 inch by, I think it's 1 inch by 12. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut off an inch so that these are the same length as my book page here. So I'm just going to cut this off. And you can save this piece. It may come in handy some other time. So I'm going to set that aside. So the next thing I'm going to do is I've also cut four 4-inch by 6-inch blocks. And they're just out of some plain scrapbook paper that I happen to have. But I want to alter that just a little bit. So I'm going to get my spray box, and we're going to spray on top of this and change the way this looks. Alright, so I've got this in my spray box here, and what I'm going to do now is I've got the boxed flowers. I believe this is called stencil, and I'm going to lay that on top, and I've kind of positioned this on a blank sheet of paper in my box here because when I spray this, it's going to leave a void, and that could be used as a journal page. So I'm kind of getting a 2-for-1 out of this every time I spray. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. This is part of the Royal Peacock set, and it's called Purple Peacock, and I have this in my shop. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to spritz it across the page. Then I'm going to take my other two pieces and lay them directly on top of the stencil, kind of pressing that in. And then I'm going to grab another sheet of paper, and we're going to mop up around those images. So by doing this, I've now created another journal page. And if you want to have this be two-sided, I just spritz the back side with the same color of Tattered Angels, and then you get this really cool effect. So that's one of the mop-up pages that I have here. So I'll set that aside. And then here is my new journaling spaces. See how it changed the way that looked? So if you've got some somewhat plain scrapbook paper and you want to change it, try spraying it with a stencil. And then here's what it looks like going through the stencil. And then we've created another journal page that we can use in the journal. So I'm going to set that aside. While I've got my spray box out, I've got the two strips, and I want them to match. So I'm just going to lay this on top, and we're going to spray through that and mop up again. I find that I like mopping up the sprays because it doesn't waste as much, and you get some really cool looking pages that you can use for your journals. Okay, so I've got those two strips. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to add some distress inks to the edges of these. So I'm just going to grab my walnut stain and my blending tool and go around the edges. Go ahead and do these strips as well. So just by cutting up one 12 by 12 sheet of card or of scrapbook paper, I get all these little pieces that I can now use to decorate my page. So I'm going to talk about ways to attach this. You can attach this to the page just by gluing them straight down and be done with it. You could put a little bit of glue to hold them in place and take them to a sewing machine and sew around it. You could even use the Shabby Stitches stamp set and stamp all the way around to give that stitch effect. So I'm going to show you how I would glue and then how I'm going to sew on my sewing machine. I've got the strips here, and the reason why I made the strips is because this was a jagged edge and I wanted to kind of cover it up and make it prettier. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue, not a lot. You just want a very thin amount, enough to hold it in place so that you can take it to the sewing machine. So I'm just putting a very, very light amount of glue. I'm barely touching the page, and it may be hard to see on camera, but it's just a very small amount. So now what I'm going to do is just line this up with the edge, and that'll cover up that jagged area. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side as well with the other strip. So now I have a strip on both sides. And you can leave this plain if you like, or you could stencil it. That's another idea that you could do. But I think I like the idea of the way the purple just kind of pops. So what I want to do, just to kind of help mark where my centers are on each panel, I'm going to go down the center with some distressing, just a little bit, to kind of define where the center is. And I'll flip it over and do the same thing on the other side as well. Alright, so these are going to go in these white or open areas, even though there's text behind that, on both sides. So I'm going to glue these down lightly with some glue, flip it over, and then I'll show you how I line up the other side. Okay, so I got one side done, and I'm going to flip this over, and I'll put glue on this piece of paper here. And then what I like to do is I will hold up the paper, and it may be hard for y'all to see it, but if I hold it up just right, I get a little bit of light behind it, and then I can line up this piece of paper that I'm putting on here just by kind of eyeballing it and then smoothing that out. And this is important for the step after this. I want them lined up on top of each other. They may not be perfect, but they're pretty good, I think, when you do it this way. So now I've got these lined up so that if you look at them, they're pretty much straight, one on top of the other on both sides. The next thing I want to do is take it over to my sewing machine. So let's get the sewing cam ready. Alright, so I'm over here at my sewing machine. I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to select a zigzag stitch. And I've got that selected. I've got some black thread in the top and in the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew right around this block with the zigzag stitch. All right, when I get to the end, I'm going to raise my presser foot and rotate the page. And then when I sew, it'll sew evenly on this side. It looks like my bobbin thread is acting up, so I'm going to check it out by testing it. My bobbin was in wrong, so I had to go in and fix it. I hope I put this the right way. Sometimes you have to check those things, and I forgot to check before I started sewing. I just filled the bobbin and stuck it in, and I forgot to check it. Oh yeah, that sews a lot better. I'm not going to worry about that the other side was messed up. I'm just going to keep going. And the glue that's in here, I would make sure that it was dry before you start sewing, but I have not had any problems with it ruining a needle or my sewing machine. It's not much different than sewing on thick fabric or paper. It's about the same. So that's one side that I have done. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. And while I'm at the sewing machine, I'm going to go ahead and sew across the top and the bottom here. Alright, so as you can see, I have sewn all the way around, and if you notice, because I was able to stack the papers one right on top of the other, it looks like I sewed each one individually. It may not be perfect, but I think it looks pretty good for being able to sew it that way. Alright, so let's continue decorating. You can stop right there. I'm going to keep going. So what I want to do is I want to have a little spot here that when it is closed, we have some pockets that we can put some things in. So what I've done is I cut a piece of scrapbook paper that is the same height as my journal page and approximately about 1/4 of an inch shorter width-wise than my page. And then I scored it about an inch, not even an inch, probably 3/4 to 1/2 of an inch of a piece. And that's going to go right here down this side. And then I've got a gel print that I thought would be really pretty if I put on top of that right there. So what I'm going to do is I think I want to glue this flap down on the page. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just glue You know, as I look at this, I'm thinking maybe I want this to have a pattern. I think I will. I'm going to add this into my spray box, and we're going to spray this with the same stencil that we used a while ago. So this time it's a little bit bigger than a half sheet, so I can't just do one side. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to move it over a little bit. And then I've got Blue Peacock, another of the Tattered Angels kit that I have. So I'm just shaking it up. And now I'm going to spritz that. And I think I like that sprayed through effect. So I'm going to mop this one up and then put the other piece of paper down. See how that changed that paper from this to the pattern? I just love the way the pattern looks. So I'm going to lay this in here and we're going to spray the other one. Okay, so now what I want to do is this is going to go, I have to remember how I'm going to do this. I want it this way, yeah. And I keep doing that wrong because I'm going to put this on here. There we go. That's what I need to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this piece to the page, but I'm going to only glue on 3 sides. I'm going to leave an opening here. And because this is a thinner paper, I think I want to fix it so that it won't rip. So I'm going to put some washi tape on the back side. I'm not going to see the washi tape, but I want this to be stronger. Another way to do that would be to glue a piece of paper on here. So I'm just going to go across just on the back. And that'll give this piece of paper, this book page, a little more strength to it. So if you've got really thin paper, you may want to adhere a couple together or add a strip of paper on the back side. And then I think I want this side. Okay, so now I've got those prepped. Trim it just a little bit. All right, so now what I'm going to do is take this piece and we're going to put glue on 3 sides and attach it to this other piece. You could also sew with the sewing machine if you want that stitched look. I think this is going to look pretty good like that. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I also have a couple of other gel prints, and basically I just trimmed them to be a little bit smaller than this page and folded down the edge on there. So it's probably right around 5 inches in size. And I think that's going to go right here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down as well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to take this little tab and we're going to adhere it down onto our page here. So I'm going to rotate this around so I can get to it. And then this is going to go right in the center from top to bottom along the edge. You just want to make sure that whatever page you're attaching as your tip in, this is what I call this, a tip in, that it's not as too deep so that it interferes with the opening and closing of your page or your book. So see, this will go like that. And then here's a pocket here, and there's a pocket here. So adhere this one down in the same fashion. Then I made a couple of journal cards. These are 4 by 6 in size, and I just cut some 1-inch strips. So I'm going to put those across the top. All right, so now I'm just going to take some Distress ink and go around the edges. I'm going to go ahead and really quickly add a zigzag stitch, and I'll be right back. So I've added a little zigzag stitch to that. Isn't that looking really good? And then I think I want to add some embellishments here. I'm just kind of looking at this. So let me close this up for a moment. I've got another gel print here, and then I have the medium butterfly that's in my shop. I have a bundle that you can get like 4 different stamps, 3 butterflies and a saying. So I think I'm just going to use this medium-sized one. And I'm going to stamp on top of this gel print. So I'm making sure that I'm really inked up with the archival black ink. And then I'm going to stamp right here. pushing firmly. Let it set for just a moment, and that'll let that ink soak into your paper. And then lift straight up. I'm going to do it one more time because I want two. I'm going to hit this with my heat tool because we are putting a stamped image on top of paint, and sometimes the paint will resist the ink. And I'm going to fussy cut these out. So I'm just going to go in here and... Okay, I've already pre-cut a few others because I wanted several of these. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to put two. I'm going to look at the colors. I think those two would look good right there. So I'm going to adhere those down. And I probably should have gone around the edges with Distress ink, but we're not going to today. I think it'll look fine. And then we'll open this up, and I want one, I think right in here, but I may change my mind. Let's see. I think I'm going to put one over here. I was going to do it differently, but I think I'm going to do it like that. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you change your mind, and it's okay. It's your journal. You are the boss of your journal. I think that looks pretty cute. And we'll do it on this side. And then on this side, I think what we'll do is we'll put them across the corners like that. What do you think of that? Is that pretty cute? So this is one page decoration right there, and you could stop and be done, or you can take it up a notch and add some flip outs so that you have even more journaling space and decorate it with the stencils. The stencil that was used here is part of the Royal Peacock subscription box. I don't have very many left, so if you're seeing this video and you go to my shop, check it out before they're all gone. And I used gel prints, like I said, and I think this will be super cute. Come back and see me at 3:45 p.m. Central Standard Time on Mondays, or at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursdays, as I'm live creating a journal from start to finish. So you get to have a fun time chatting with us, and you get a chance to win some prizes, as well as a possibility of winning the journal that I create. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends. Comment below any comments that you have. Check the description box for the products I used, the stamp, the stencil, as well as the Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks so much for watching. Sending you lots of love. Bye.